Hey, so you know that you don't want to miss any episodes of 10 Minute Murder. And you want them the moment they're released. The best way to make that happen is to follow in whatever app you're listening right now. Depending on the app, it might say follow or subscribe or collect. Just hit that button and be the first to get new episodes.
10 Minute Murder contains depictions of actual crimes. What you are about to hear is real and violent in nature. Discretion is advised. This is 10 Minute Murder.
Welcome to the brief and bingeable true crime podcast, 10 Minute Murder. I'm Joe, the host, and thank you for being here. I've been getting a lot of feedback lately, which I love, but some of it is my word selection. Apparently, y'all don't like when I say the word moist. I honestly can't think of the last time I used the word moist in this podcast, but moist isn't a word that I recall using very often. Moist just means a little bit wet, and I'm not sure why moist is so provoking. So I can say murder, but not moist. Moist. JK, I get it. I'm going to try to chill, but no promises. Today, we're talking about a killer that was married 4 times. He somehow talked 4 different women into marriage, and all of us single people out here are just trying to get a text back. To be fair, he probably wasn't running around using the M word. That I've given you my word not to say anymore. Drew Peterson was a former police officer that loved media attention, and 2 of his 4 wives met with mysterious ends. Drew Peterson graduated in 1972 from Willowbrook High School in Villa Park, Illinois, where he ran cross-country. He joined the U.S. Army after graduation and briefly attended the College of DuPage in 1974 before moving to Falls Church, Virginia, where he trained as a military police officer. Peterson began his 30-year career with the local police force in Bolingbrook, Illinois, a south suburb of Chicago, in 1977. In 1978, he was assigned to the Metropolitan Area Narcotics Squad, and in 1979, he received a Police Officer of the Year award from the department. Peterson retired in November 2007 at the age of 53 with the rank of sergeant and was given a tax-free $79,000 a year pension. Drew Peterson and his high school sweetheart, Carol Brown, got married in 1974. They were only married for 6 years, but had 2 kids together. Drew and Carol divorced in 1980 because, according to Carol, Drew couldn't keep it in his pants. Carol got custody of the kids, and Drew got visitation, and it was on to the next. In 1981, he had a super young girlfriend that he'd use his police influence to get her into bars to drink, but she soon soured on Drew and broke things off. He retaliated by stalking her. He'd write her parking tickets for her car. He didn't put the parking tickets on her car, though, so she had no idea that she had those tickets until Drew showed up one day to arrest her for unpaid tickets. In court, it was all thrown out. In 1982, he married Vicki Connolly. Despite being together longer than his first marriage, 10 years this time, Drew Peterson hadn't learned his lesson, and this time he added domestic violence into the marriage. Vicki said Drew Peterson would hit her and told her that he could kill her if he wanted to and make it look like an accident. During this time, he got himself fired from the narcotics department. Peterson was taking bribes and also selling the drugs he was supposed to be keeping off the streets. He wasn't fired from the whole force, though, just demoted. Not long after that, Vicki filed for divorce, but not before he was already in another relationship with another woman. Vicki was on the way home from work one night, and her brakes didn't work. Mysteriously, and I'm using air quotes here, mysteriously, her brakes were gone. She wrecked and flipped the car. Someone cut her brake line. She was in a week-long coma, but survived. 2 months after the divorce with Vicki was finalized, Drew married Kathleen Savio. Kathleen was an accountant and wanted the simple things in life that she didn't have growing up: a house, stability, and a little expendable income to buy nice things. She grew up rough and thought that she had found a good guy in Drew Peterson. They got married in May of 1992. This was wife number 3 for Drew, and after 2 kids with Kathleen, 5 kids for him in total at this point. Between 2002 and 2004, police were called to the house 18 times. In 2001, Kathleen received a letter in the mail telling her that her husband was having an affair with a 17-year-old, also warning her who she talked to at the police department because he had a lot of friends and the word would get back to him. She was pretty devastated. Her 47-year-old husband was cheating on her with a child, basically. They got divorced, and in 2004, Kathleen was found face down, dead in a bathtub without water in it. Her death was ruled an accident by a coroner's jury that included a police officer who knew Peterson and assured the others that he was a good man and would never hurt his wife. The 17-year-old he was cheating on Kathleen with was Stacey Ann. After Kathleen drowned in an empty bathtub, Drew Peterson married Stacey Ann. He was 49 and she was 19. Together, they had 2 children. That makes 4 marriages and 7 children. Stacey Ann loved the kids that he had had with Kathleen like they were her own kids and even adopted them. She was a hotel receptionist in college, getting a degree in nursing. In October 2007, Stacey Ann just up and disappeared. Her sister said it was very unlike her not to call her back or return her phone calls, so she reported her missing. When asked about it, Drew said that Stacey Ann called him the night before she went missing and told him that she had met another man and left her car at the airport. After Stacey Ann disappeared suspiciously, police got suspicious, and the decision was made to exhume Kathleen to undergo more forensic examination. It was determined that she drowned following a struggle. There was extensive bruising and scraping to many parts of her body, and a huge gash on her head. It was determined that her death was a homicide. A pastor at Stacey Ann's church came forward and said that she told him that Drew Peterson had killed Kathleen and made it look like an accident. She even provided his alibi and felt guilty about it, but said she was terrified of what he would do to her. The FBI joined the Illinois State Police in investigating Drew Peterson. A longtime friend of Peterson admitted that they bought 3 big blue plastic containers, and later, Peterson's stepbrother helped him load one of those into the SUV. 2 days after that, the stepbrother attempted suicide, thinking that he probably helped dispose of Stacey Ann's body. In 2008 and 2009, while investigators were building a case against him, Drew Peterson went on as many radio and television programs as he could, including Larry King Live. One radio show even pitched the idea of having an on-air dating game with Peterson, which is about as tasteless as you can get. In December 2008, you're not going to believe this, but Drew Peterson became engaged to 23-year-old Christina Rains. A little more than a month later, she moved out of his house and broke off their relationship after an ultimatum of some kind from her father. On May 7th, 2009, Peterson was indicted and arrested for the murder of Kathleen Savio. Bail was set at $20 million. On September 6th, 2012, Peterson was found guilty of the premeditated murder of Savio. Jurors admitted that the most compelling evidence was based on the hearsay statements allowed under Drew's law. On February 21st, 2013, Peterson was sentenced to 38 years in prison for the murder of his 3rd wife. His 4th wife, Stacey Ann, is still considered missing. On February 9th, 2015, Peterson was charged with attempting to put a hit on James Glasgow, the Chicago area lead prosecutor in his murder trial, after a fellow inmate tipped prosecutors to the plan and wore a wire to capture evidence against Peterson. In May 2016, he was found guilty of solicitation of murder and solicitation of murder for hire. He was subsequently sentenced to an additional 40 years in prison, so he got more time for trying to hire someone to kill a man than he did for actually drowning a woman with his bare hands. That's today's 10-Minute Murder, the brief and bingeable true crime podcast. Thanks for listening today, and if you want to connect with the podcast on social media, that would be great. I post visuals that go along with the episodes that you hear about here. Plus, if you have a suggestion for an episode of 10-Minute Murder, you You can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Another place you can follow is using the app you are listening in right now. Most of the apps are changing their terminology from subscribe to follow. So I would normally be asking you to subscribe, but that's going to be outdated. So you know what I mean. And I know some of them say collect. Whatever it says, make sure you do the thing and you won't miss any new episodes. I really appreciate you listening to 10 Minute Murder. Have a good night.